Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. Now for this one we are going to head back over the water to Denmark, and this is my first Danish beer that I'm reviewing for you since I returned home, but we're going to go to Copenhagen and have a taste of a beer from one of my favourite breweries actually. These guys have done some really awesome things that I've been lucky enough to review for you on here. This guy is called the Garden of Eden, and it's an IPA that is brewed with various different types of tropical fruit, and I really love tropical fruit IPAs, which I'm sure you'll know if you've watched my channel for any length of time. But as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll take you through a very brief history of the company, just a minute or two, but if you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. The brewery website's in the description for you below, along with a link to my other reviews that I've done from these guys before, and there will be more added to that in the fairly near future. So anyway, Total was founded by Tobias Emil Jensen and Tore Gainter, who were actually students of Mikkel Bjergso, of course, the big boss at Mikkeller, but originally they brewed with him in the school kitchens back in 2005, and they continued to homebrew until 2010 when they actually officially founded Total, which translates into English as meaning two beers. Now when Mikkel Bjergso heard that his old students were still brewing, he insisted that they did a collaboration beer together, and this became the very first Total beer, which was the double IPA. Now despite their short existence, these guys have gained much acclaim in the craft beer circles, and they distribute their beers to over 30 countries now, and it's probably even more than that actually. They're constantly expanding. But as is the case with Mikkeller, they're a gypsy brewery, and so they don't own their own equipment, and they actually use spare capacity at other large breweries. But their home base as such is in Noribro in Copenhagen, and they have a collaborative beer bar with Mikkeller which is called Mikkeller and Friends, and the bar actually has a really cool bottle shop as well that has over 40 different tap beers. So when I move to Lund in Sweden, I will need to go and actually check these guys out. And very recently they've also opened up a bar in Reykjavik as well. Of course, Iceland, very beautiful country. Then in all of my Icelandic reviews I do recommend that you should go up there, and trust me, you really should. Very beautiful place, and I'm very excited to go to Denmark and Sweden and see what these countries are all about as well. But anyway, let's actually get on to the tasting of this beer itself. This guy, the specs on this guy, it's a 6.4% IPA. It's brewed with apricot, guava, papaya, grapefruit and mango. As I said, a whole host of tropical fruit in there, and the label is designed by Casper Ledit. And I actually really like the kind of random labels that you get on Total. You can see there just the kind of the Total symbol, if you like. It'd be cool if they put that on the bottle caps, but I think that's hard for them just because they are a gypsy brewery. But the idea behind the bottle work here, the artwork on it, was actually that it's meant to be abstract and watercolour, and it's really nice. I'm going to steam the label off this bottle and keep it, and you always get these cool kind of random top labels as well. Just a plain bottle cap as always from Total. It has a little bit on the back. It says, "A salute to the beauty beyond man, an IPA 6.4% brewed with a wide amount of tropical fruit, as fruity as it is fresh and hoppy." And this guy, I believe, is brewed at Locriste Heifte in Belgium, the Prof Brewery, which is where they actually brew most of their beer. So yeah, without further ado, let's get this guy open and get on with the tasting. I think I might actually have tried this beer before when I was up in Iceland. I'm sure my friend Dave actually had one of these, and I did try it, but I might be wrong about that. It might have been another Mikkeller one, but all of the beers you'll get from Total are very awesome, regardless of whether it's a dark beer, double IPA or whatever. But anyway, the first impression just as you pour that is that you can really smell the tropical fruit on this guy. It's absolutely beautiful, very fruity. But as you can see, the beer is poured a really bright orangey amber colour. You can see it there in the light just how bright it is. It's hazy. If I put my fingers behind it, you can't see through it. There's a finger of a frothy white head. It might actually be a bit of a cream colour rather than completely white, but it looks very good, very frothy, maybe a little bit bumpy as well. Looks really good. There's a teeny bit of sediment floating around in the bottom of the glass there, and just a little bit of carbonation going up towards the bottom of the head. It looks a really nice beer actually. So let's have a look at the aroma for this guy. Huge tropical fruit, as you would expect from it. You can really pick out, I think the mangoes are really kind of shining out in this one. I'm not sure exactly what papaya kind of smells like, but the thing that's sticking out to me on this one really is the guava and the guava and the mangoes actually. The guava's kind of pushing there in the background, but I'm really not sure what the papaya's like. The grapefruit I think is quite subdued, but when you take a deeper smell of it, you can pick up that sort of soury aroma that you get from grapefruit. But it's really nice actually. Huge fruity aroma in this one. It's absolutely beautiful. You can smell just a little bit of sort of pale malt in the background of this one when you swirl it up as well. Maybe just a wee hint of caramel and a little bit of yeastiness. The Toil beers I always find have this typical kind of dusty, yeasty character around them. And you can pick that up in this one too. They have this dusty, slightly hoppy, slightly yeasty character out of it. But you never really get a yeasty feel in the flavour actually. It's always more of a kind of dusty, aromatic-y, piney hop that you get. It's always a dusty kind of hop like that. But it's a huge tropical fruit aroma. You can pick up a little bit of the sharper passion fruit as well when you swirl it up. As I say, I'm not sure exactly what papaya smells like, but you can pick up all the different elements of this one, the guava, the apricot, and everything. It's really, really nice actually. Smells absolutely beautiful. So without further ado, let's give this guy a taste. This is the Garden of Eden from Toil. Cheers. And that's really interesting. It actually comes across in the very first instinct as being more of a fruit beer than an IPA. There's a huge kind of tarty fruitness to it. Yeah, it almost has an element of some of these sour beers, if you like. It's got this kind of tarty acidity about it. It's quite nice. Yeah, you're really getting this kind of very sharp, tarty fruit character out of this one. The thing that's coming out to me with this, it's got to be a mix with the guava. The guava is just lying underneath that with a little bit of the apricot, but then the passion fruit is coming out very, very sharply on this one. And the kind of the grapefruit is kind of coming out very, very nice actually. There must be quite a strong influence of the papaya in there as well, because it is quite a big flavour that I don't really recognise actually. I know what mangoes and grapefruits and stuff and guava and apricot both taste like, but the papaya is quite a new one. But you can definitely pick that up in here. I'm picking up the papaya as quite a sharp element there. The mango, from what I remember, isn't too sweet. It's a more juicy fruit, if that makes sense, and you can pick that up in there. It's just a huge, quite complex tropical element that just goes right around the edge of the palate. It's a huge, very, very mixed flavour. There's a nice kind of malt in the middle of it. It's quite a pale malt. There's maybe just a little teeny bit of caramel sweetness to it, but the most prominent component of the malt flavour really is a just pale blanket right across the middle of the tongue. The most prominent components of the flavour is obviously the fruit, and it's a really kind of tarty, it's like tarty tropical fruit that's going right around the edge of the tongue. It's quite hard to pick up anything else because it's quite an overpowering element actually. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of kind of juicy orangey citrus coming out of this as well. You just feel this little bubble moving towards the front of the tongue there, and I think there's some kind of orangey citrus flavours coming out there. But you can definitely pick up a little element of kind of grassy and slightly aromatic-y hop, and that just comes out on the edge of the tongue as you move into the aftertaste. There's a big kind of hoppy bitterness around the edge of the tongue, and it's this kind of dusty, aromatic-y and slightly grassy flavour that I always talk about as a kind of trademark of the Toyo beers. There's maybe just a wee bit of pine in there, a wee bit of pine resin too, but it's really kind of beaten down by the sort of the nice sharp tropical fruits in this. As I say, you can pick up the guava and the apricot quite well. They give the sort of base to the fruits, but then you've got the sharper fruits come out on top of that. I think the grapefruit is perhaps mixing in quite well. It's not the most prominent thing. I think what's coming out very kind of strongly is probably the papaya, because it's quite it's a flavour that I don't really recognise, but it's very, very sharp. And the apple, I think the apricots and the guava and the mango are just kind of forming the base. That you've got a little bit more prominence from the grapefruit just mixing in, but then you've got a really sharp flavour which I think must be the papaya. It's a very interesting blend of tropical fruits actually. But yeah, it's a really beautiful beer. It's very interesting for its flavours. I've never had such a kind of huge blend of tropical fruit in there, so it's really interesting to try and pick out all the different kind of components to it, but it is very, very nice. So in terms of the mouthfeel with this guy, it's definitely kind of light to mid-bodied. It's got a soft carbonation to it. There's just a little bit of a prickle. You do have a nice orangey sweetness. As I say, it's got a little teeny bit of an oily mouthfeel that pushes towards the front of the tongue. But it's got a big fruity juiciness, quite sharp, almost sort of acidy feel about it. It's almost in the same kind of category as a sour beer, but it's got a good bit of dryness, and it's a bit of aromatic-y and dusty kind of pine resiny hops that come out in the aftertaste, and that's just a bit of dry character right around the edge of the palate. It's beautifully, beautifully done, this beer, and it's another kind of outstanding brew from Toil, from Locriste in Belgium. So really, really nicely done beer. So overall, this is another really awesome beer from Toil. If you do like sort of sour beers and then something that's a kind of IPA hybrid, if you like, or a typical Toil IPA, this is a kind of hybrid between these two. So if you do like sour beers and you like an IPA from Toil, then definitely give this guy a go. It's very interesting and it really will test your palate, so I would recommend that you just use this beer as a taster rather than a session beer, unless you see it on tap, of course. But if you are just buying the one bottle, then this really is more of a taster beer for you. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. It's been really cool to review another one from Toil. The Garden of Eden has been a really awesome one to review because it's been a little bit testing, but as usual, please let me know in the comments section your own thoughts on this beer. I hope you've enjoyed this one from Toil, and please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff, and there will be more from this brewery in the very near future. Cheers.